Hi, it's Musolini, the Merchant of Success. I am excited about today's segment because the times we are living in right now, the stress is one of those biggest factors that are affecting humanity. And when there is a lot of negativity, a lot of challenges, then it means you need to upgrade your game. You need to up your game to go to a much higher level for you to survive, not only to survive, but also thrive. And if you don't, then you'll be swept aside by the circumstances of the day. So it's important to find a way to manage the current challenges. And one of the simplest, most effective ways you can do that is that if you are able to manage your stress, then you'll be able to deal with the challenges and circumstances at the moment that we are experiencing, not only now, but also in the future. Those who can manage stress better, they demonstrate leadership. My wife was sharing with me a story about Nelson Mandela, how they were traveling and it was very turbulent in the air, and he stayed very calm. And then everyone was worried when they saw him very calm. They also calmed down. And later, when he had left the plane and he was telling either the colleague or the driver, I believe someone that he was traveling with, said, and then Nelson Mandela said, by the way, he's my hero, by the way, just so you know. And he said, oh man, I was scared up there. And then the person got shocked. He's like, but you looked so calm. And he said, look, when you're a leader, you have to be a leader in all situations, meaning you have to stay calm, even amidst challenging circumstances. And therefore, I know that in one way or the other, all of us are leaders in one way or the other. And one of the ways to demonstrate leadership is actually stress management. How do you manage stressful situations is one of the key traits to demonstrating true leadership. So these are the 5 components we look at. Clarity, meaning what is it and why is it important? The mindsets required, the strategies to get there, the skill sets to deliver the goods, so to speak, and the mastery to make sure that you embody this information right away, okay? Now, let's look at the clarity first. Stress management. Now, when we talk about stress, it's a normal psychological and physical reaction to the demands of life. That's what it is. That's what happens typically. So it's not something abnormal. It's normal, so to speak. And the difference, just like you realize, how do we respond or manage those stresses? According to Richard Lazarus, stress is a condition of feeling experienced when a person perceives the demands exceed the personal and social resources the individual is able to mobilize. And that is the closest description I've found. And my own tweak or personal tweak to that is as follows. So the way I look at that is, okay, someone said that they like the creativity of the slides. Thank you. I appreciate the kind comments. And that's the value of working with a team. All right. So my own twist to that, or tweak to that, stress is where the external demands are bigger than the internal resources, okay, or the resources available. And resources available could be external or internal. This is what I mean. For example, if you find that your body can withstand working for 8 hours non-stop, and now your job requires you to work for 10 hours, then you're going to be stressed out because your inner resources, which is mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual resilience, is being overstretched. So it's like your maximum capacity is 8 hours, and now is 8 hours, and now the demand is 10 hours. So that's where stress comes in. if you find that your emotional intelligence, for example, to deal with situations on a scale of 0 to 10 is, for example, 3, and the situation which has bumped at you, whether someone is approaching you or attacking you, is at a level 6, then you're going to be stressed out because the situation requires you to be above the level 6 in emotional intelligence, but you're actually at a level 3. So then you experience emotional turmoil. So when we talk about stress management, it's really about how do you expand your inner resources, because then that's where the magic is. Okay, now let me give you the example of finances. Because I said both internal and external resources available. If the demand is $2,000 and you have $1,000, then you're going to have $1,000 worth of stress because there is a gap missing of that amount. At a zero stress situation is impossible. Stress is always with us, but only at varying levels. And when I say varying levels, it could be real or perceived. When I say varying levels, there's something which stress you do not stress others, while there are things that do not stress you and they stress others, again, depending on the resources they have available. But either way, there's some kind of stress. And then now it's how do you manage that stress? And by the way, it's Kabgo who helps me with designing these slides, just so you know. That stress is not only negative, it has both positive and negative effects. So if it is eustress, yeah, I believe that's the word, eustress, if it is manageable stress, it can actually up your game. It can enable you to up your game to go to another level. If it is too much stress, then you're literally in distress, so to speak. It's too much stress. So why is stress management important? Number one, when we talk about stress, is it impacts work. Like I had hinted, minimal stress can increase productivity, while extreme stress is detrimental to the organization and the individual. So the minimal stress, the eustress I was referring to, is okay to push you to add in that extra kick, that extra gear in your work, while extreme stress, in this case, distress, can be very costly both to the individual and the organization. When it comes to relationships, when you're stressed, your relationships will most certainly be impacted. I've noticed that when there is stress, or if stays really extremely rare, but I recall when I had not mastered this art, sometimes I would find myself, generally speaking, I would find myself quickly irritable, especially when you're burnt out or stressed out in general, easily irritable. Okay, small things. The child is asking, daddy or mommy, can I do this? What are you doing here? Get away. So then your relationships, whether at home or at the workplace, they get strained because then the situation that you're in, or in essence, you're not able to manage what's going on in your life. So sometimes you see people busting out or shouting or throwing a tantrum. And sometimes it's simply because they are stressed out and their resources are maxed out. Okay. Just like when you see a car moving on the road, when it runs out of fuel, it starts just, it has run out of fuel. So sometimes you see people behaving that way. They have run out of fuel, okay? And not because they are bad people. So that's what it is. The other key is the overall level of happiness. Chronic stress can greatly increase the likelihood of developing symptoms of depression, anxiety, or other mental health difficulties. My suspicion, again, I'm not a scientist, but I believe my suspicion is accurate. I believe that the current challenges we are going through, an even bigger cost is going to be the mental health, okay, even beyond the physical. That's my assumption. Again, I don't have data to back that up, but that's my belief. And I really believe that the mental health side of the current challenges we are going through is huge and is going to impact society big time, because people have been stressed in all sorts of ways, mentally, emotionally, financially, socially, and so many ways. And as such, we need to be aware that even minus these extreme circumstances, we need to pay attention to stress management, because it automatically, definitely impacts your levels of happiness. I've never seen someone just happy amidst, so happy when they are stressed out. No, it doesn't happen that way. So for people who are truly happy, you discover or notice that they have less stress. Here are some key statistics to note. Number one is about 33% of people report feeling extreme stress. Okay? And it's up to you to see where do you fall in these categories. Number two, that 49% of young individuals between the ages of 18 and 24 experience high levels of stress from comparing themselves to others. This is huge. So I know when we're talking about confidence, I highlighted this concept of comparing yourself. So not only does it affect your confidence, it actually increases stress levels. So that's something for you to be mindful of. 60% of young individuals aged 18 to 24 relate stress to the pressure to succeed. So, and the question is, where is that pressure coming from? The pressure could be coming from family, the pressure could be perceived, the pressure could be peer pressure. So just to take note of that. Let me also give you another figure here. 77% of people experience stress that affects their physical health. And this is huge. Today, when I was making a post on my channels, I saw another figure that linked or related to the idea that when you're stressed, they called it, they say that stress causes 85% of disease. I wouldn't personally, as I was reflecting on it, I wouldn't use the word cause. I would use the word facilitate. It facilitates disease because when you're stressed out, your immunity is suppressed, and also stress, burdens or wears out the organs or creates that extreme pressure on your internal organs, which are burdened, then which ultimately affects your overall health. That's why when you're stressed out, you're prone to headaches and other pains. Yet when you're happy and you have endorphins in your system, those things very, very rarely happen. So when we talk about stress, it has a huge, huge bearing on your health situation. Here are key mindsets for, I wanted to mean key mindsets for stress management. All right, the key mindsets for stress management. Number one, there's a greater being in God who cares. I was talking to a politician who has gone through a lot. And I'll just leave it at that. If I mention the name, some of us would know. And I said, wow, I admire your courage for you guys to be going through what you're going through and you still keep going. And he said, yeah, we keep going because, this is what he said. I will never forget what he said. He said, we keep going because we know God is on our side. I was like, wow, what a mindset. Therefore, as you'll notice then that the part of what's keeping this person going is that awareness that God is on his side. And in the same spirit, I would encourage you to hold that mindset and tell yourself, you know what? Regardless of what's going on, God is with me. God is with me. Jehovah Jireh is always with me. And God's grace is sufficient with me. I was talking, I was sharing with the mastermind team. I was like, oh, guys, I was like, team, I can't believe I've just finished this segment of 2 hours being live. And then now I'm here with you and my energy is up and running. And one of them and I said, okay, by God's grace, I'm here, and it's definitely God's grace. And one of the mastermind members, Susan, said, he said that God's grace is always sufficient. So there's that one of the mindsets that is healthy is to remind yourself that God's grace is sufficient, regardless. Somehow, somewhere, when you look back, there is so much you've gone through, and here you are, still alive and kicking. So you need to be aware that God truly cares and is always with you. And some people will say, but this thing hasn't happened. And my favorite line is that God's delays are not his denials. All right? So just know that things will happen. The second key is to say these moments don't define who I am. Okay, let me give you an example. So for example, when I was presenting here live, I noticed an error. So before I learned some of these techniques I'm sharing with you, I would have felt stressed out. I would have been like, okay, now how could I do this? Okay, I'm going to appear badly. This is not professional. This is, I would get worked up. But now, like, yeah, okay, it's a mistake. Apologies. It's not something I would have wished to see happen, but it has happened. It was an error. I take full responsibility. I apologize, and it's okay. And I swear to you, I wasn't feeling any tension or any worry or any concern. It is what it is. I deal with it because it does not define who I am. And part of what stresses us is when we make mistakes, for example, or there's a big challenge, we attach it to who we are. And once you start defining yourself based on what is going on, then it means when there is a mess up or when there is a mistake, then you're going to get worked up, you're going to get stressed for no good reason. I shouldn't say for no good reason. You find yourself stressed out. The other key thing is you have to be you need a forward-looking mindset. Okay. And part of that is to ask yourself, what next? How do we move forward? What is the solution? Okay. So you need to think about that always. Right. So for a forward-looking mindset is one that, you see, here is the key. Usually when we reflect on the past, we are in a regretful mode, if that word exists. Some of us who know English better than I do can help out there. If you could be in a regretful mode or you're regretting, that's what I meant. And if you're in that mode, then it can also be very stressful. But the key thing is not to think about the regrets and the mode and the situation you're in now. The key thing is to ask yourself, what next? How do we move forward? What is the solution? When you're in that mindset, then you will yank yourself out of the situation. Because here's the deal. If you're in a situation of distress or there's a big challenge, and you ruminate on it, you think about it, you process it, you cry about it, you whine about it, so now you're going deeper and deeper into the situation. So that's why sometimes when people are depressed and that sort of thing, one of the key tricks is to move them out of the situation they're in. You take them in a different environment. So now here we are, what we are doing is to go into a different mental environment, because solutions give you hope, and hope by itself has a very healing effect. That's one. Two is when you're thinking about solutions, you're tapping into the creative mode. When you're in the creative mode, that psyche is uplifting. The psyche of solution seeking is very uplifting, rather than just being stuck in the challenge. So what we are doing here is that we are countering the negative energy, or the energy of worry, the energy of I am, and you sometimes hear people say, I am dead. How do you say you're dead when you, I mean, a dead person doesn't speak, at least I'm not aware of one. So, just that person is, I'm stuck, I'm finished. That kind of mindset is going to keep you there. It's not a healthy mindset. But when you're thinking about solutions, it's moving you forward. And when you're moving forward, that uplifts you big time. The other healthy mindset is, what do I learn from this? How do I mitigate this in the future? What do I learn from this is one of my biggest tricks in anything. And you keep hearing me mentioning it in one way or the other, but even in this context, it makes a big difference for you to know that you can learn from this. That way, it is a profitable situation rather than a loss-making venture. So never be in a loss. I'm told this is a big lesson for some of us as managers. I'm told there is, I believe it was IBM, and there was someone who had made a big mistake, and he went to the manager, to their supervisor, the boss, who had powers to fire him or keep him around. So he had made a mistake that costed the company $1 million. And so the guy entered this office shaking. And towards the end, the guy is like, I imagine you're going to fire me, right? He said, no. I mean, we've spent $1 million educating you, and then we release you to go work for someone else. What a mindset. So, and I would imagine and believe, I don't know how else what else happened in the conversation. I would imagine the conversation rotated around these two questions. What did you learn from this? How do you make sure you mitigate this in the future? Because then that's a lesson. So usually when clients come to me and they are stressed out and they are looking for counseling or coaching, one of the things I tell them, if for example, they have lost money, as an example, just to keep that line of argument, I usually tell them, look, for whatever amount they could have lost or something like that, I tell them, well, you know what, that is a 3,000 shillings lesson. That is your school fees of $10,000. That's your school fees. You've learned that, you've picked that, you keep that as part of you now, and it's a resource which you can use in future. When others are falling into the same ditch, for you, sidestep it and move faster and quicker. Then they'll think you're lucky, but they don't know that you paid your dues years back or months back or weeks back. They have no idea. So my encouragement to you is, when you develop the mentality of learning and mitigation, then it will push you forward faster and you manage stress much, much better. Okay, cool. Emmanuel has just shared with us the Isaiah 41:10, that fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee. Yea, I will help thee. Yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. Thank you. And I believe it should also be Isaiah either 29:11 or 11. For I know the plans I have for you, plans not to harm you, but to give you hope and the future. It's either Isaiah 29:11 or 11:29. Someone can type it in the chat box. It's one of those verses that really kept me going when I was challenged I had some challenges in my early 20s. I won't go into the details because of time. So yeah, for I know the plans I have. Oh, Jeremiah, thank you, not Isaiah. Thank you, Emmanuel. We have a pastor here. Jeremiah, thank you, Emmanuel. Jeremiah 11:29, thank you. Yeah, Jeremiah 29:11, thank you. Even Agnes chipped in, and Emily, I appreciate you coming in quickly. Yeah, so that's my belief. So that's the knowing that God is with you. That's one of my favorite verses, knowing that indeed God has a plan for us, not to hurt you, but to give you hope and a future. So that's a verse that stuck with me when I was at the university. I learned it when I was at the university. And because, you know, my background, I had so many challenges, so they followed me. And so that was a very liberating verse for me. And sometimes when clients come to me and they're also going through distress, that's one of the verses I like highlighting. All right, so please go ahead, type in the chat box, does this make sense? All right. So let's talk about the strategies required to make this happen, for strategies for effective stress management. The first strategy is the peace strategy. It's one of the most effective that I know. You need to forgive yourself, forgive those who have hurt you, choose peace. Don't look for things that will hurt you. Release whatever is holding you back. Leave it to the universe, make peace. Someone said that when you look at elderly people, most of them, a big percentage, I would suppose over 90% of them, they are peaceful. It's like little things do not, you know, they see stuff happening and they are relaxed. So it's like they have, over the years, they have learned the way of peace, knowing that it is not worth fretting over or stressing over stuff. It's not worth it, you know, holding grudges and carrying them, because they have seen both sides of the coin. They have seen enough in life. They have gone through life. They have noticed over the years that not forgiving, they are hurting themselves. When they forgive, they are giving themselves a gift. So I'm inviting us that let's learn from our elders for what they are teaching us, because they have discovered certain truth and pieces of wisdom out of experience that we can borrow. And you need to let go. You let go and you let God. And this idea of you wanting to punish someone, you know, in any case, the Bible talks about that vengeance is mine. Right? But either way, let's remember this, that you need to choose peace. It's a choice. It's a choice. Now, recently, I was having dinner with my daughters, and so sometimes we play the game of make me laugh. Okay. Now, our second born, who is 3.5, for her, anything will make her laugh. She's just bubbly. And now, our firstborn, who is 7, for her, you really have to, you know, like she works hard to make sure that she doesn't laugh. You don't make her laugh. So there's a moment I attempted, and then she said, but Daddy, you didn't succeed to make me laugh. I said, sweetheart, it's a choice. It's up to you to choose to laugh or not laugh. So it's up to you. So I said, if I attempt to make you laugh, it's really up to you. The final decision is up to you. And our youngest daughter is like, yeah, Daddy, for me, I laugh. I'm like, yeah, cool. So when I attempted the next time, this time with the 7-year-old, she quickly laughed. I said, you see, it's because you made a choice. You made a choice to laugh. In the same way, it's up to you to choose to be at peace or let things bother you. I'll tell you, compared to the things which used to bother me 10 years ago to what bothers me now, it's like I've reduced that percentage by at least 90%, because it's not worth it. I'll tell you, it is not worth it. Because someone said that for every minute you spend in unhappy, you've lost a minute of your happiness. Think about that. For every minute you spend in sadness, you're losing a minute of happiness. So it's really up to you. It's a choice. And those of us who, I know I also did, I told you in terms of stress, I know some of us went through the course, but I'm seeing some new people here. The key thing in terms of forgiveness, one of the quickest ways is I learned the technique of forgiveness letter. I learned it from Tom Polly. So what you do is you get a piece of paper, you write on it, you write a letter to this person who angered you or annoyed you, and then write whatever it is that you're going through. Then once you're done, burn it. Okay, then it's like you release that emotional energy off your chest. I've used that technique successfully. So you can do this with as many people as possible, and you can do the same thing to write forgiveness letters to yourself. The other technique, the other strategy is a stressless environment. So create a positive environment, positive and enabling relations at work and at home. Make your bedroom an awesome place, beautify it, okay? Make your home a happy environment, okay? Up till now, just before these dynamics, this environment we're in, I had developed the habit of buying flowers. So for myself too. So once in a while, I would buy them for my wife and my girls. But then I was like, but Ethan, where are you in the equation? So I had also started putting flowers on my reading table, fresh flowers on a weekly basis. So I would go get a batch of flowers for my wife, for my girls, and then too for my table, because, you know, when they are there on the table, they look nice. And by the way, roses have, they have a very high vibration, so they uplift you. So it was a conscious creation. Given what's going on now, I'm like, okay, the circumstances, you don't know where those flowers are coming from. So I'm just giving you an example. So your bedroom, you know, find a way that will make you happy. Relations at work and at home. So heal those relationships, because as much as possible, if I have an issue with my wife, I would rather we resolve it as quickly as possible, because I don't want to spend time in a home where I know there's stress and strain. I want to be happy. Same thing with your workplace. Please do not create enemies at work. Reason being, you spend more time at your workplace than at home, typically. So why create a very unhealthy environment where you're going to spend most of your time? Doesn't make sense to me. So as much as possible, consciously find a way to heal whatever is going on at work and at home, because those are the two places you're traversing. And then that way you have a healthy pond or field that you're operating in. So do things that make you happy. Find things that make you happy. My wife loves synchronized swimming. And so she came to me asking, oh, when has this synchronized swimming happened yet? And I told her, well, you check. And, you know, she watched synchronized swimming and she was as happy as happiness can be. So what are those things that make you happy? Is it music? Is it because some people find it very enriching to work with music. Talking about music, it's okay, for example, to play harp music when you're working. Now, I got to know about harp music from my coach. So I typically, most times I play harp music. It's again creating a happy environment, creating a good, positive environment. So for you, what works for you? And then you might find that for you, music doesn't work for you, prefer something else, use that. The other strategy is a personal awareness strategy. What are your stressors? What are your strengths? What works for you? What are your abilities? Are you able to take on that job role? Because some of us are stressed out because you didn't do an authentic, fair assessment of what you could or could not do. So there are some things you don't have to say yes to each and everything just for the sake of making the other party happy. There are moments when it's okay for you to say no for the sake of your sanity. And number two, also you need to figure out what your stressors are, and then I'll show you what we'll do with that. So then you can stay away from that. But you need to be aware, to say, okay, I have the ability to do this. I don't have the ability to do this. So what are your abilities? What can you do or not do? Very, very crucial, critical for you to note those things. Then that way you will know what to engage in or what not to engage in, what to let go of, what to take on. Very important. The other strategy is the healthy living strategy. Take care of your body. You see, healthy related stress is at times irreversible, sometimes, not always. But take care of your body, because this is the temple of your spirit. Do you exercise? How much food do you take good food? One of the stressors that is rarely talked about is some people really overeat. And my assumption is when you overeat, you're straining the organs also. You're straining your stomach. Now it has to work doubly harder to crush and churn that food, to digest that food. So you're giving the body unnecessary work, so to speak. By the way, here is a quick tip for you. One time I was traveling with a gentleman. I was in a bus one day and we were traveling, and he really shared with me a tip that really stuck with me. He said, for me at night, in the evening, I take something very light. I don't take normal food. I said, how come? No, he looked very healthy and energetic and yet mature in age. I said, how come? He said, you see, during day it makes a lot of sense to take a lot of food because you need energy to work. But how do you eat to sleep? I mean, you don't need all that food to sleep. You don't need much energy to sleep. I was like, what a simple but powerful idea. See, sometimes great ideas just are so simple. So, meaning what he was teaching me is that at night, because you're going to sleep, why you don't need a lot of food? Why should you create that extra stress? The other strategy is the internal focus strategy. Building internal resources gives you more resilience. Self-love, self-esteem, choosing to focus on you, managing your attitudes and belief system. This is priceless. Because remember I told you that that stress is where external demands are bigger than the internal or available resources. Therefore, this is where you have to enlarge your internal resources. One of the ways: self-love, self-esteem, having a positive attitude, choosing the right beliefs. All those are enhancing and expanding your internal resources. Jimmy says that 1000% agree with the strategy of peace. Release those who hurt you. My motto has been, what others think or say about me is not my business. Full stop. I love that. It's their business indeed. Now let's talk about skill sets. What do you really need in your arsenal to move forward? Here are some key steps in stress management. 1, pause and reflect. You see, usually people make these mistakes and then that's when they remember to pause and reflect. Like, oh, I did think about it. Some people act without thinking, or they do not reflect. It is action, then reflection. It should be the other way around. Reflection, then action. And you do that by pausing first. Then you make proper or good decisions. Talking about decisions, one of the best pieces of advice I've ever had is do not make a key decision when you are stressed out. Okay. Of course, if context does not allow you to do that, that's another matter. But as much as possible, please, as much as possible, do not make a key decision when you're stressed out. Unless context, because there are those moments where you must make a decision there and then if there's a crisis. Number two, also always remember to ask yourself, what's in it for me? Because ultimately, and one of us hinted on it, in that you need to make yourself a priority. That's one of the big mantras from my teacher. Say, make yourself a priority. How are you benefiting from this? What's your benefit from this? What's in it for me? Or how can I benefit from this? Because also when you think about how can I benefit from this, or how am I benefiting from this, that will shift your perspective from always thinking about loss to gain. The other key thing is develop new skills. Like right now, I'm enabling you to get new skills on stress management. So develop your skills. Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is from Jim Rohn. This is what he said. If I were you, I would write it down if you've never heard of it. He says, don't wish things were easier, wish you were better. I repeat, don't wish things were easier, wish you were better. Oh, I was like, priceless wisdom right there. So when you develop skills, then when you are in a better off situation, when you have more skills, then you can handle situations in a better way. So for example, if you know how to, let me give you something very basic. So like, as we speak now, we are in a we are really in a virtual world now as many times as possible. So if you don't have the basic skills, for example, on how to get into a meeting or how to share a screen, then you're going to be stressed out. If you don't know how to run a meeting or a training like this online, time is going to get there when you're stressed, or if you haven't done so anyhow. But when you develop that skill, now that stress is off your table. So next time when you're in front of a screen, you're relaxed, you're at peace. So skills for things which bother you and yet keep recurring, learn a skill, go to school, get a coach, get a mentor, attend a class, ask a colleague to teach you, go on YouTube and learn. By the way, for the technical things, almost everything is available on YouTube. Just type in the keyword, then you learn. You play something where then you pause, you do what they are telling you to do. If you don't understand, you go back. So anything technical, please, this is something I was sharing with one of our staff members saying, please use YouTube and learn. Positive self-talk. Things like this too shall pass. I know I will be well. I know all is well. I know all will be well in the end. Those are some of the things I tell myself when I find myself in a challenging situation. Because that self-talk, you hear me when people ask me how I always say outstanding. I want to stay in that positive self-talk game. Because that words and thoughts are things. In Luganda, they say, olulimi rutonzi. The tongue creates. The tongue creates. If the tongue creates, I should say the tongue and the mind create. Therefore, let's beware of the thoughts and what we say. We are broadcasting to the universe what it is that we foresee. I'll give you some things. When recently my daughter was saying, the 3.5-year-old was like, me, I can't do this. I say, no, instead frame it that I need to learn how to do this. Notice I didn't tell her, oh, I'm able to do this. That would be lying. Say, okay, tell yourself, I'm going to figure out a way to do this. So you're creating a language of possibility. So it's not about you stating things which are not true if they are not yet there, but you can declare what you want to see happen. So meaning if you can't do it, don't tell yourself that I can do it. Say, no, I'm going to figure out a way to do it. I'm in the process of figuring out a way to do it. Instead of saying I'm broke, you say I'm figuring out a way to earn more money. That's one of my favorites that I liked sharing with people. Yeah, don't say I'm broke. That's a statement of finality. A I was sharing in the mastermind group that, you know, you need to make statements of possibility, not finality, when you are amidst a challenge. Instead of saying I'm stuck, say I'm looking for ways to get out of here and get there. That's a statement of possibility, not finality, as if it is the end. It's not the end, it's the beginning of something new. Change lifestyle. One of the things I know that I've been working on the last couple of months is to sleep a little early. I haven't hit the mark of constantly going to bed by 10, but at least now I go to bed before midnight. Before, it always used to be past midnight. Poor lifestyle. Please, it might mean, so for me it's sleep, and for it could be exercise. It could be eating healthy. Drop that soda that you like, please. It's called sugar water. Take as much water as possible. Exercise as much as possible. Do breathing exercises. You know, your lifestyle might mean you, instead of going to the bar, go to the gym. Of course, these days it could be a challenge to go to the gym, but exercise, please. Lifestyle. Because some stresses are self-created and we can avoid them. Change the environment. What do you need to put in your environment that will excite you, that will make you happy, that will make you smile? Again, I'm not going to create that for you, because what excites me, what makes me happy is not what makes you happy. So for me, I like watching soccer, so I make sure that the package I get, I'm able to watch soccer during the weekend. Today, I had to watch the last couple of minutes of Brazil versus Mexico, the Olympics. That makes me happy. Now, for you, it's not a big deal. At one time, my daughters were like, oh, but these are people just chasing a ball. Though now sometimes they join me. I love my daughters. They are so adorable. The other one is seek assistance. It's okay to seek for assistance. Now, I know that we have some gentlemen here. Let me say this. The ladies are pretty smart about this. They are smarter than us guys most times. Shouldn't say all the time, most times. Ladies are willing to seek for help. Guys, let's stop this ego thing. Do you know that when it comes to coaching, over 80% of my clients are ladies? And I believe one of the reasons is the guys think, I know it all. What do I need to learn? What do I need to learn? But let me give you a clue. I was talking to one of the bankers. He's a manager, he was a leader, he's a key leader in one of the international banks. This is what he told me. Please listen to this. This was a gentleman telling me, not a lady. He said that do you know that in that bank, for every 4 new employees, 3 were ladies. And this is what he added. This was the punchline. He said, and it is on merit. Merit. How come? Because ladies are investing in themselves more. Some of them even come to me for coaching on how to pass oral interviews. So they're able to crush it. I'm not saying those are the ones who go to the bank, even though some have. The point I'm making is when you go to churches when they are still open, you'll find that most times the ladies dominate. So they pay attention. They know they need to work on themselves. But for us guys, most times we think we know it all, and no, that's one of the reasons you see ladies are taking off. They are growing. You're seeing them, their pie increasing. That means the pie for men is decreasing. And that one of the reasons is that they are smart enough to say, I need to go for an extra class. I need to go for extra coaching. I need to go for counseling. I need to go for that. I need to go to church and pray. Or I need to go to this and become a better person. Seek assistance. Now let's talk about the ABC model of stress management. The A is activating events. Identify your triggers, identify your key stressors. There are things that stress you. So be aware of what those stressors are. And because when you identify what they are, then it is much, much easier for you to respond, to manage those. Okay. So it's very important for you to always think, okay, what are these key stressors that I need to be aware of? So always make it a point Because if you don't know what is stressing you, then you won't know what to treat. Be aware of that, my friend. The second key is being aware of your beliefs and assumptions. What are you choosing to believe? If you believe that you're going to be overwhelmed, then you'll be overwhelmed. If you believe that you're stuck, then you'll be stuck. If you tell yourself, I have nowhere to turn, then you will have nowhere to turn. If you believe that you can turn things around, then the answers will come. So what are you telling yourself, my friend? Be aware of your language. Next, the choice. Remember, it's all about choice. How do you want to respond to the situation? Always choose the right actions, choose the right state of mind that you want to be in. See, you can choose to throw a tantrum, or you can choose to be an emotional stabilizer in the situation. It's all about choice. Ultimately, you don't have control over what happens around you, but you have the choice on how to respond. I know that that has been framed in different ways by other authors and thinkers, but that's absolutely true. When power goes off, you can cry and kick and rant, or just stay relaxed and say, okay, what do I do now? Say, all right, cool. That might give me more time to rest. That is if you're able to, all right? All right, let's look at the mastery. With mastery, this is what I want you to do. Identify one situation that could be stressing you at the moment and apply the ABC model. The ABC model, like you notice, it's really simple. It is straightforward. It is 3 pieces. You look at things that you identify your stressors, you analyze your assumptions and beliefs, okay? And then you choose how to respond. Okay, how do you respond? What's the healthiest way for you that is within your powers that you can respond with? Okay, that's what your task is. All right. Is the task clear? Can I get 1 or 2 people to let me know? Is the task clear? Yes or no? Yes or no? All right, in the breakout rooms, that's what you will discuss. What did you find most useful in this presentation? And how are you going to implement the lessons moving forward in your life and career stroke business? And that's in reference to what's going on. And if you're watching the recording, just pause and do the exercise, all right?